Hello, students. I apologize for not having this up sooner. I'm going to give you just a quick explanation. On Saturday morning, we got an email and made us aware of a minor family issue. And so we scrambled and packed up quickly and went out and stayed in South Dakota overnight, and then picked up my wife's grandmother this morning in the middle of South Dakota, picked her up from where she'd been in Wyoming, and brought her back home to Minnesota tonight so that we could put her into a memory care facility. So we got news that it would be helpful if we could do that on Saturday, and we scrambled and packed and got everybody ready and jumped in the car and I failed to realize that I hadn't yet turned on the Moodle site for this week, and that I hadn't yet recorded the introductions to the field time for Monday and Tuesday. So I apologize for getting all this stuff done late. I realize that many of you will not even see this, but for those that are looking for it, or maybe you'll get up and watch it early in the morning before you head out, here it is. Okay, so on Monday, our lab assignment, as hopefully you saw in the email, is to go nest searching. So to find a bird nest requires a little bit of practice and skill to be really good at it. Really, anybody can do it from the start. And so there are a couple of strategies that will make this an easier process for you. And so if you think about the nesting process, there are basically 3 stages, okay? So the first stage is building the nest. The next stage is laying the eggs and incubating the eggs. And then the third stage, if the young are altricial, is feeding the nestlings, okay? So building the nest, laying the eggs and incubating the eggs, and building the nest, and feeding the nestlings. So the best ways to find nests are to think about that first stage. Find birds with nest building material in their mouth. So if a bird is flying around with a piece of grass hanging out of its mouth, or a feather hanging out of its mouth, or if you see it visiting a pile of mud and getting a mouthful of mud and flying somewhere, then that's a good sign. That bird is building a nest, and I am going to follow it, right? Now, the first thing, you don't want to follow it too close, because if you follow really closely, then they will not go to their nest if you are really close, because they see us as predators. And so if they know that you're watching and following them, they might not visit their nest. So you want to follow and watch them at a distance, okay? So first, look for nesting material in their mouth. Second is just look for sort of regular behavior back and forth. Sometimes you'll flush a bird and you'll see a bird sort of flush in a slightly unusual way, like you didn't even know the bird was there, and then suddenly it's flying off. And when you look down, you're like, oh, I didn't know it was there because it was sitting on this nicely camouflaged nest. And when you walk by, they finally you got close enough, and they decided to bail. And so they just flew off. And so that's a good way to find a nest during the incubating stage, because they're sitting very quietly on the nest. And if you just happen to get close, they'll fly away. And then the third way to find a nest is to find a bird with food hanging out of its mouth. If a bird finds food and intends to eat that food, it's just going to eat it. It's going to gobble it up right there. So the only reason that they would have food in their mouth that they're not gobbling up is because they're going to deliver that food to the nest. And so that's another, just like the nesting material, you see a bird with food in its mouth, just give them a little space and wait patiently, and they will probably lead you right to their nest. Now, the fourth part to this that's really helpful is to know what type of nest each bird has, so that you know what to look for. And that's where you might not have all the information you need. So if you have your smartphone with you, you can pull it up. Say you see a chickadee, and you're like, I wonder what a chickadee nest is like. So you can chickadee nest, Google it, and you'll see, okay, chickadees are cavity nesters. So I'm going to look for a little hole in a tree with a little teeny little small hole. Or if you see, the rose-breasted grosbeak, and like, oh, cool, I'm looking for that. I saw a rose-breasted grosbeak with some nesting material. What do their nests look like? Google it again, and you'll find rose-breasted grosbeak has a nice little cup nest. So knowing what to look for helps you a lot. If you don't know, just encourage you to use your little Google machine to look it up while you're out in the field. Okay, so once you find a nest, what I want you to do is in your journal, draw a picture of the nest that you find, that you found, and then just sort of tell a little story about how you found that nest, right? So what I would love for your journal to look like from tomorrow is for you is, so go out and do your normal bird watching. So you're going to just document all the birds that you see. But instead of just looking for birds, you're going to be looking for birds with the intention of finding their nests. Okay, so for those of you that are interested, I will be at Northwestern tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And I will help you. We'll find some nests on campus. In 2 hours' time, I think there's a good chance we could find, depending on how many of us there are, a couple of, 3 or 4 different nests in 2 hours without too much trouble. So it's kind of a fun process. I really enjoy nest searching because it's like gives you a target and a goal, and you feel like you've accomplished something at the end of the day. I found 4 nests today. That's really awesome. And you can learn a lot, and it's kind of amazing actually. Every now and then you'll find a nest that you can see into without any technology, and you see the eggs, you see the nestlings. It's such a joy to see new life. It's sort of like going to the hospital and seeing new babies. Watching birds reproduce is one of the special joys of being able to get to know birds intimately. So I hope that this process works well for you. I hope that you find it interesting. Basically just detail all your notes here, and then this is going to be one of your sort of extra field assignments. You're not going to be answering specific questions. Your job is just to take really good detailed notes that includes a drawing and a story of that nest. What stage do you think it's in? Are they building the nest? Are they incubating eggs? Are they feeding their young? And why do you think that? Draw a picture of it. Tell me a little bit about how you found that nest and what the story of that nest is according to your understanding of it. Okay, so I look forward to hearing all about it, and I'll talk to you soon.